I think Wilds has a very solid roster. The new monsters are creative, they're fun, the returning ones have lots of improvements to their old movesets. Overall, I'm just really happy with what we got. I feel like this is an improvement over Base World, where I just hated some of the monsters. So let's rank them. I'd be happy to hear y'all's thoughts, of course. Give me your dissertations in the comments. I'm taking everything into consideration: the fight, the soundtrack, ecology, all of it. I greatly enjoy Chatacabra. He's got the cuteness factor for me. In some ways he kind of reminds me of like a pit bull. And as the tutorial monster, I think he functions pretty well as a teacher. The attacks are easy to read, and I like that you can get caught lacking by a stray punch if you're not paying attention. He's not so much of a punching bag that I feel like there's no interactivity at all. And so he'll land himself as the first monster in A tier. Quematrice has a fun design, it's just the right amount of humor, but I think this fight might have been better served being just a little later in the story, as I feel like it's just a little too simple to do the concept justice. He uses the fire in his tail for like 2 moves, and one of them's just really simple, and while cutting its tail off, completely getting rid of its fire is a good teaching moment, it just really trivializes the fight. Overall, Quematrice goes at the top of C for me. It's funny, but it's not a fight that I'm scrambling to replay over and over. Lala Barina has a fantastic design. The animations are like the perfect amount of creepy without being too hard to read. The paralysis florets it spreads everywhere pushes you to be near the monster and to not be afraid, to be engaged in the fight. And this is the first fight that can pose some real challenge, especially with the fast stinger attacks. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was a later game monster with a much more difficult fight, but as it is, I still like it quite a lot. And so it goes in A tier, just above Chatacabra. Congalala doesn't do anything offensively bad to me, it's just an okay fight. I'm in the camp of people who thinks it's pretty funny, and the use of different mushrooms to get different attacks is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it feels like the fight lacks urgency? He spends a lot of time just posturing at me or eating a mushroom or finding a mushroom, just things that aren't fighting. And this makes him much more of a punching bag than he should be. Oftentimes when I fight him, he's dead before I even get to see the poison mushrooms or the paralysis. And I've only seen the blast mushroom once. The changes to his moveset from the older games is nice, and I feel like it adds telegraphs to attacks that didn't have them earlier, but I feel like much of its creative concept is wasted by being too easy to kill. This is a problem I think a lot of the Wild's early game monsters suffer with. Quematrice's tail is too easy to break and cripples the fight, and even with Chatacabra, breaking his rock fist only takes like 2 hits. And for that reason, Congalala lands itself right beside Quematrice in C tier. As a side note though, I absolutely adore how much fur textures have improved in this game of a world, and how it interacts with the environment looks gorgeous. Balahara is another concept I think is creative and well thought out, but just underutilized in the fight. We see in like every cutscene with this monster that it's a monster that hunts with pack tactics, but when it comes to the actual fight, this just isn't used at all. For a game that promoted monster packs in the marketing so much, it just doesn't happen all that often in the game itself. I would have loved it if Balahara had coordinated attacks with other members of its species, like how Great Azuchi from Rise uses Azuchi in its attacks. I think it would have been so cool if other Balahara tried to use flank tactics or make pitfall traps or spit water at us while we were fighting the main one. But nope. Instead we get a fight that doesn't use its digging in any interesting way, and is mostly just a bunch of very slow bites and tail sweeps. That might sound like a bunch of negatives all at once, but I don't hate Balahara. At the least, the timing of its attacks is interesting to learn. Its animations and ecology are great to me too. Overall, I feel like it balances out well in C tier. It felt like they were setting up Doshaguma to be this game's version of Anjanath, just a huge wall that stumps players, but it doesn't really succeed at that as well to me. Anjanath had some devastating near one-shot attacks that came out quick, but pretty much all of Doshaguma's moves are slow and very telegraphed, making just getting out of the way a very simple endeavor. It feels like the design of monster attacks in this game leans into heavily countering. There are lots of very delayed timings to attacks, and while it makes countering much more interesting, it makes dodging much more easy as well. And I think that lends into the argument of people saying Wilds is just too easy. The player has ample time to just roll out of the way of any attack. And this is a design concept that permeates every difficulty of monster. The big attacks just have huge windups. So yeah, Doshaguma was not as big of a wall as it could have been. But that's okay, its animations and just pure anger in the fight really made it grow on me. It really does portray a clumsy, lumbering beast with tons of strength, and ends itself up a B tier. Uth Duna, unfortunately, is the most underwhelming apex to me. I like the concept, but again, so much more could have been done, I feel. Sure, the waves can push you around a bit, but it really doesn't have much in the way of using waves as actual attacks. I would have loved something more similar to Namiel, but using the environment of the Scarlet Forest. Instead, most of its attacks are just purely physical, lots of belly flops. I feel like water is an element that constantly gets shafted in this game. There are 3 monsters that use water elements, and 9 that use fire. And for the peak water monster to just not even use water element all that creatively, it's just disappointing. I actually had to double check just now if it could even inflict water blight. I've also actually never had it go in the water at the top of the map, I just always kill it before then. Low-key, I think this fight could have been better served with an underwater section. Bring it back, Capcom. But yeah, C tier. Rompopolo, I do think, actually uses its unique concept enough in the fight. The gas explosions it causes are fun to time parries too, but where it falls behind for me is just the constant little claw swipes or tail swipes that it does all the time. These attacks just feel generic and not engaging to me. They occur in so many monsters. And it has this weird tongue move that I can't even figure out if it does anything. So overall, I think the interesting parts of the fight are held back by an overly simple moveset. I am glad that things like oil and deep water aren't nearly as frustrating in this game as they were in World. So while there are aspects of this fight that disappoint me, at least it's not annoying in any way. So Rompopolo lands itself in C tier. I think Rey Dau is incredible. The sound design, the visuals, the intensity of the soundtrack, just everything. Not only is it a satisfying fight, but it just fits so well into the world of Monster Hunter. But a big thing I love about Monster Hunter is the grounded ecology of monsters in the game, that they're based on science and not magic. So I love it when the devs think of creative new ways to utilize monster evolutions for them to harness elements in ways that make sense. So to me, Rey Dau is one of the peaks of this design philosophy. If I really had to think about any criticisms to get this fight, I would say that maybe its attacks are too readable and too slow. But even so, I think there's a good balance, and the fight itself is intense but enjoyable. Trying, and sometimes failing, to parry the big lightning strike is so fun to me. Rey Dau will earn its spot as the first S tier. Nerscylla's a good monster, but that's kind of all I have to say. I think out of all the returning monsters, this one's definitely changed the least. It's got the design aspect nailed, and sleep and poison are really fitting attributes for a spider to have, and parrying its huge mandible attack feels great. All in all, this is a solid monster. Its ecology and interactions with Gypceros are cool too. I don't really have anything negative to say, I just desire a bit more intensity from the fight, and a design like Lala Barina stands out more to me. However, good monster, B tier.
They fly now! They fly now!
Now, Hirabami, I haven't really been able to grow to love. If anything, the more I fight it, the less I like it. It's not entirely the constant flying, although it is a little bit. It's more the attack telegraphs that I feel are poorly designed, and the insane amount of downtime between each attack it has. Like, there are moments I've seriously just stood still and waited for it to attack me, and I've had to wait for like 10 seconds or more. This feels like a monster that was just begging to be fought in a group, but of course the game strongly discourages fighting monsters in packs. You have the large dung bombs to make them all flee immediately, and fighting one by itself is just kind of lackluster. I appreciate the different tactics there are to be able to knock it out of the sky, that's not why I find it annoying, it's just not an entirely engaging fight. It strongly needs better attack telegraphs. So for that reason, it's taking the first D tier spot. It's pretty much the only monster I actively avoid trying to fight. Ajarakan, I think, is amazing. When I fought it for the first time, my gut reaction was to be disappointed that it felt kind of slow and easy, but this fight's a counter heaven. It gets technically more difficult the better you get. Its attacks are at just the perfect frequency to chain counters over and over, and the moves it can pull out has a good variety of timings and challenging tells. It is absolutely not just a fire regime and stands on its own, using a huge moveset pool. I love how it grinds its metal carapace into the ground to produce fire with its attacks. Ajarakan for me goes at the top of A tier.
The black flame.
New Udra sound design is so fun. For such an intimidating monster, hearing it have little squeals and sad noises when you hit it is so endearing. Like seriously, just listen to this. I tried searching up octopus sounds in real life to see if there's any reference it was based off, but I couldn't really find much, so I'm not sure. The fight itself is great, the tentacle attacks have a wide variety, and it pretty much has all the things I'd expect in fighting a giant octopus. This was also the first monster to present some sort of challenge to me. I carded to it in my first playthrough. But now that I'm better at the fight, I will say it does feel a little too predictable. Its attacks are fairly straightforward, and the devs took great care to make sure its telegraphs were clearly readable. But I kinda want an octopus monster to feel a bit more tricky or slippery than the fight itself actually is. Like sure, it can crawl into crevices in its nest, but that doesn't actually add much to this fight, and I think Jie is a much better realization of that idea. So for that reason, I'm putting it A tier. It's still very good, and I enjoyed a lot. I was just hoping for a little bit more special something. And the soundtrack is good too, I still hum the main theme to myself. Regarding Doshaguma, at first glance you'd think, oh, this is just a reskin of Doshaguma, but no. While they do share some DNA, this fight is completely different to me. There's so many new moves, different combo strings, different follow-ups. This is a significantly harder fight than Doshaguma. My main issue though is how erratically it acts makes it frustrating to read at times. One of my biggest pet peeves in video games is when an enemy has multiple attacks that all have different timings but have tells that look very similar to each other, making reading it almost a guessing game. You have to react to a fast attack, but it could be a slow attack and you just can't tell because they look too samey. And Guardian Doshaguma to me is the biggest offender of this in Wilds. It is an interesting fight though, it's slower but still intense due to how deep the move pool of this monster really is, more than most in the game. When I was trying to do this fight for my no-hit video, this was hands down the most anger-inducing monster in the entire game. I don't think it's bad though, and maybe with a lot more practice I could get really good at the fight, and maybe some of my opinions would change. But for now it's going in C tier for me. It's harder but not as fun as normal Doshaguma. Now, I should preface this by saying that in almost every single Monster Hunter game, I've been a huge Rathalos hater. In the older games, it was the generic movesets and instant charge attack with no telegraph, and in the newer games, it was just a constant flying without much opportunity to hit it without flash pods. And generally, I don't even like using flash pods in my casual play. I think it takes away the point of even fighting a monster if I'm just going to stunlock it the entire time. So yeah, Rathalos has never been my favorite. It was okay in Rise, I like some of the changes that was made to it, so I can't believe it when after 15 years I'm finally gonna say this. I love the Rathalos fights, both of them. I feel they finally achieved the perfect balance of a flying monster that's not too hard to hit. Its claw and tail attacks in the sky leave ample time for counterattack, and the new mechanic they added to knock it out of the air after doing enough damage is great. After playing this, I found myself thinking, why hasn't it been like this the whole time? The new Rathalos offers engaging ways to fight it no matter what it's doing. I went from avoiding this fight in World to trying to parry it out of the air in Wilds, and Guardian Rathalos itself is such a fun switch up to how Rathalos normally fights. When I first fought this, it was unexpectedly intense. Multiple fireballs one after the other, into claw swipes that had huge AoEs into more fireballs, which then triggered the wilt crystals it made to explode, which was another obstacle to watch out for. If you don't understand its moves, this fight can quickly descend into sheer chaos. And I love it for that. This really felt like the dragon battle Rathalos was always meant to be. If I have to levy some criticisms at it, I would say its ground moves are still a little too basic compared to its air moves. Like, it does the double tailspin and basic bite move just a little too much when it's on the ground. But for a monster to have such a glow up for me, it's going in A tier. Jin Dahaad is so cool. The fact that it's based on the same technology as refrigerator coils, where it sucks the heat out of the air to create its ice, it's just peak ecology. I love that detail. That being said, I know a lot of people love it, but the fight itself is just okay to me. It pretty strongly reminds me of a siege fight without actually being a siege fight. Using individual limbs to target specific hunters reminds me a lot of Safi Jiva, and while as far as siege fights go, it's pretty good, it's still just an okay fight. Almost everything it can do is slow or pretty easy to avoid, making it not as engaging to me as the other Apexes. The only move it really has that I consider scary is the downward ice blast it can do. But mostly it just feels like whacking a very high HP damage sponge for 5 to 10 minutes. That being said, it's not all bad though. I do feel like there's a good amount of interactivity. It's not so easy that I'm completely disinterested, and targeting the ice plates to weaken some of its moves is a fun mechanic. The Nova was an unexpected spectacle, and it carded me on my first playthrough because the tutorial pop-up of avoiding it didn't show up for me. But once you figure out the gimmick, there's no real challenge involved in it at all. But this is still a pretty big step up from past huge monster fights. I'd rather take this over Zora Magdaros any day. So I'm putting it at the top of B. Really good design and pretty decent fight. I'm not going to make a secret about this, Odogaron is one of my favorite monsters in the series. And while I think its Ebony subspecies was just alright in World, it was such a huge glow up in Wilds. Along with keeping its deep move pool and long combo strings, the dragon element it uses is actually interesting now. Using Element to ignite the wilt crystals it can create adds another challenging layer of depth to the fight. I love having to mind my position to avoid both the attack and the varied positions of the follow-up AoEs. And the chaos this monster can cause through multiple dragon attacks and explosions makes this fight so intense. This is the most satisfying fights for me to chain parries one after the other. The timings are varied and difficult to learn. If I had to criticize Odogaron, I give it the same criticisms that I give pretty much all the Guardian monsters in this game, which is that once you knock them out of their rage mode by damaging their wounds enough, it just kinda becomes a cakewalk. Losing all their AoEs and a decent chunk of their moves is too much a detriment to the monster. And sure, they can recover it by absorbing Wilk, but by the time to do that, it's probably already mostly dead if you're any good at the game. But for the times it is in rage mode, Ebony Odogaron is to me the most fun I have in this game, top to best tier. Hands down, the most hype experience I had in my first playthrough of this game was discovering that there was not one, but two octopus monsters. Being thrown right into the Jay Wu fight was an exhilarating experience, and like what I was saying with new Udra, this is exactly what I want in an octopus fight. Darting around me, jumping over me, being hard to keep track of, and being able to use his tentacles as blades was a perfect touch. Also, the fact that it actually does use crevices in its nest to ambush you is so fun. The fight is fast paced and fun for me to frantically parry, but when I got used to it, it's a tad too easy to exploit how some of its hitboxes just aren't large enough to actually pose a threat. If you stand right up next to it, there's actually not a lot it can do to you. It also just feels slightly too squishy, like it is very easy to burst this monster down, but it doesn't hinder the design or fight itself too much for me. The theme of a slippery, elusive ambush predator is captured perfectly, and I'm putting it in high A next to new Udra.
Patrick, that's a blue-eyes white dragon.
Guardian Arkveld is almost as fun as normal Arkveld. Arkveld itself is of course a great monster, and I'll expand on that later, and it's fun that its Guardian version can utilize the Wilt Crystal AoEs, but I feel it falls flat from normal Arkveld for two reasons. The first and most obvious is that you only get to fight this thing once per save file. Once it's dead, it's just out of your game forever, you cannot fight it as a variant again. And two, it only gains its dragon attacks once it absorbs Wilk energy after the first half of its fight, making it so the first half of fighting it isn't nearly as interesting as the second, like it can't even ignite its own Wilk crystals until it gains the dragon attacks. So for those reasons, while I love base Arkveld, Guardian Arkveld's going at the bottom of A. It's still a great fight, but it doesn't live up to the heights of just its normal version. Monster Hunter has a long history of final bosses that are a great spectacle, but in the actual fight, kind of underwhelming. But Zoh Shia really delivers on both aspects. This fight easily became my favorite final boss in Monster Hunter. It's not the hardest fight ever, but it is a good challenge, especially in the new high rank version, and combining the Fallen Angel theme with the use of Wilt Crystals is perfect. The gradual buildup of just sheer intensity in this fight is so good. When it first pulled out those Fatalis moves, I was literally like, wait, is that? And then busting out the white Fatalis lightning at the end was such a throwback reference. It really feels like they took the feedback of Xeno'jiiva and World and the Wind Serpents and Rise being too boring and just dialed this fight up to 11. And my journey to do this fight without taking damage really cemented my love for it. I don't really have anything negative to say. It doesn't reach the same difficulties as some of the other fights, but I don't care. Zoh Shia is going in S tier. Yian Kut Ku kicking off high rank directly after Zoh Shia is so funny to me. Like, you just killed God, fight an annoying chicken now. I'm glad that they added new telegraphs to attacks that used to be instant in the older games, but I'm not sure how to explain it. It feels like Yian is lacking some of the charm and personality that it used to have. Like, slowing down its animations took out some of the quirkiness of it, and I also feel that its sound design is kind of a step downward actually. The moveset is okay, it's got the kind of generic moves like the double tailspin, but the fireballs and pecks have been revamped and it has this new actually challenging move where it just slams its face into the ground. But I don't know, this is just not a fight I enjoy all that much. It spends a lot of time just running around in the fight, and I find trying to read each and every peck to just be tedious. Also, why does it take literal minutes for it to fly back to its nest once it's weakened? Like, why is its limping flight speed so slow? It's no fun to me that if I don't kill it before a single area transition, I'm just stuck waiting for it at the nest for a long time. So I'm putting it near the bottom of C. It's not bad, but eh.
Dude, why is it that when I flash somebody...
Gypceros in a lot of ways I feel similarly about. Something from its design just takes away from its personality, especially the dead look it has in its eyes now. Gypceros in Monster Hunter 1 was an extremely fast-paced fight. It was hyper, it was aggressive, it moved quick. And in a lot of ways now, it just feels sluggish, like I'm waiting for the monster to do something in the fight. Also, the light crystal on its head is way too easy to break, and it still tries to do the flash move even after you break it, which just really trivializes the fight. It's a huge free opening. The playing dead gimmick is really funny the first time you see it, but once you know it's already coming, it's just tedious. At least it's fun to try and parry its wake-up attack. I do enjoy how they changed its tail attacks now, how it stretches so far and how it uses it like a whip. It gives some unique flavor to it that wasn't all there before, but that alone isn't enough to carry it for me. I'm putting Gypceros at the bottom of C tier. Rathian has always been a fight I've loved in every game, so it disappoints me to say in some ways I feel she's been downgraded, and in just a truly bizarre way to me too. I'm not a fan at all of some of these strange new animations that have been added to her. Particularly this weird sidestep I feel doesn't add anything to the fight, and this animation I don't understand where it looks like she tries to fly but fails. I genuinely don't know what causes it, but it happens multiple times every time I fight one, and they both just create a lot of free openings that take away my enjoyment of the fight. Besides adding these weird things that I don't like and the pink Rathian tailspin, the fight remains largely unchanged, which overall just feels like a downgrade of World Rathian, which I felt was perfect. So she's going in B, and never in my life did I think I would rate a Rathalos higher than Rathian. And onto the classic. Rathalos keeps all the good changes that I mentioned when talking about its Guardian version, and maintains some of its fun new moves from Rise that I liked a lot, while even getting a new version of its Around the World attack from 3rd gen, which is such a big improvement. And him getting his own flagship theme as a new version of the Forest and Hills theme from 1 is amazing. There's enough unique about the fight to separate him from his Guardian version, but I do just slightly prefer Guardian Rathalos, since the added AoEs of that fight just make it slightly more intense. But normal Rathalos is still going in A tier, just below Guardian. I'm very positive about the changes Gravios received to make it less annoying from older gens. It used to feel like such a gimmick fight that I would always dread encountering on my playthroughs. Like if I'm not using something with Mind's Eye, I should just be prepared to bounce for the next 15 minutes. But the wounding system mechanics, the changes to its chest to be a bigger target, and bouncing in general just being a lot less crippling, make this fight just so much more enjoyable, as well as the new additions to its moves. It used to be nothing Gravios did really posed much of a threat, the challenge was just hitting the brick wall over and over again. But the new downwards laser attack and the lasers in general just being much faster add a lot to this fight. It feels satisfying to target its specific weak point while a lot of its attacks are also aimed at getting you away from that point. It still has its lumbering slow moves, but they combine well with the speed of its lasers and fireballs. This is another big glow up to me, and I'm putting it in B tier. Blangonga's new animations are pretty good, and I'm so glad they added a telegraph for it jumping backwards. I greatly enjoy how this fight feels like a step up in challenge from how it used to be, and how it calling the Blongos to it is part of the fight. Its moveset feels a little too limited, however. It loved spamming this one punch move in particular, and the change to make the Ice Breath freeze instead of just do damage makes it easy to ignore. It doesn't have any pain points, but the most fun I have in this fight is trying to parry the move where it digs underground and pops back up. I think B tier is a good spot for it. Guardian Fulgur Anjanath is an improvement over World's Fulgur. I've already said how I love Wilt Crystal AoE, so I won't harp on it too much, but Anjanath's electricity just perfectly complements the mechanic. While I feel the constant snot spam it used to do in World was annoying, Wilds' new electricity attacks it has are much more fun, and this move where it just flies at you mouth open is hilarious. I wish it did more damage, as all the things that made it a wall in World are still there, but at its core it's Anjanath, and Anjanath is very good, A tier. Gore Magala looks majestic in this game. It feels like they finally fully realized how good he can look. The fur texture of its wings looking like a dark cape with a virus flying off of it is perfect. I was a little worried when we were getting Gore back in this game after we just got him in Sunbreak, but this version of the fight is just perfected, besides the camera. It's savage, it's fast, it's powerful. The wing slams are hard to read and the virus AoEs are tricky to time counters to. 5-star Tempered Gore is currently the hardest monster in this game by far, and not in an unfair way, but in a way that feels like a genuine fun challenge. This monster still carts me sometimes, but I always appreciate the opportunity to improve my skills. I thought it was strange at first how he felt kind of ham-fisted into the story at the end, but the explanation for the virus affecting the Dragon Torch and all the Apex Predators was pretty interesting to me actually, and is a necessary plot device to explain why we still have to hunt Arkveld. Gore Magala, been the villain since 4, S tier. The flagships are always good, everybody knows that. While Arkveld's moves are somewhat simple, the speed at which he throws them out offers some complexity to how you deal with them. Most of his attacks will have fast follow-ups, and to play well you have to plan ahead. The grab move is fun to counter, it's fun to time counters on the big slams. This fight just remains engaging and enjoyable throughout the whole thing. The one real criticism I have is that its big dragon explosion is way too easy of an opening to exploit. It should not be that simple to just roll at it and avoid the biggest damage move it has and get a huge free opening as well. But that's really all the negative I have to say. Both the monster's sound design and the soundtrack adds melancholy and desperation to the atmosphere. And of course there's the obvious symbolization of the chains, yada yada English class. But really funnily, I think the sound effects of his chains sound almost exactly like the Lego breaking sounds from the video games. Like, listen to this. You can't tell me those don't sound the same. Arkveld is easily another S tier monster. I have slain so many of these. And finally, we have Mizutsune. Like Gore, this was another monster where I was like, why are you putting this in the game? We just had it in Rise. But also like Gore, I will say that I was wrong, and this is the best version of Mizutsune. They really nailed the slippery, elusive feel that it should have as a soap leviathan, while not making its telegraphs too difficult to read. And I was so surprised when I saw that a lot of Soul Seer Mizutsune's moveset was incorporated into the base Mizutsune. Fighting this monster felt like much more of a momentous cinematic occasion than I was expecting it to be. And the added challenge of this being a title update monster where they're purposefully trying to make it more difficult really complemented it. And it just looks beautiful. The fur textures on the tail, the soap bubbles, the lighting. It's definitely hard to run on PC, but Wilds really is a big graphical improvement over World. Mizutsune is going in A tier as a welcome surprise for me. And that's the list. If you skip to the end just to see this, it's okay, I still love you. Feel free to yell at me in the comments about how Hirabami is actually the best monster ever and I'm just stupid, or any other thing you might be thinking. And consider subscribing, pulls. Okay, bye!